Hello, everyone. We are back to Conversations. This is the part 2 with Dr. Kannan. Today, we are talking about what happens about relationships when they go sour based on, when you feel that others are judging, you feel discriminated and isolated because of social groups, how to find a space through spiritual practices. So now we are back with part 2. Thank you, Dr. Kannan. I really appreciate your time. And
Absolutely. And I hope that was valuable. So it's like I said, it's my passion to really make a difference. So yeah.
Yes, I learned a lot. As I shared with you, I have observed so many of my own clients, in the work and, how things happen with them or in families and friends, it's a very good learning. So, in this part, I want to talk a little bit more what to do when relationships, go sour and one wants to change the course to a healthier and a happier lifestyle. And in particular, considering the individuals involved, what is their confidence level and how they want to portray themselves. They're looking at themselves and looking at other people too, like it's a part of being or feeling judged. So what are your thoughts on this?
So you're right that we often use relationships to validate who we are, right? And that's the human design. Somehow, that's the way our society has wired us. And if we go back, eons, perhaps, that was an important survival kind of mechanism in those ages, in the early ages, where, yeah, we needed that feedback on each other because we didn't have, independent ways of evaluating ourselves. And if you look traditionally, tribes, human beings that stuck together had a better chance of survival, right? They would look out for danger, alert everyone else. So it worked really well as a community. But in our modern life, like you said, what has tended to happen is we have moved from collaboration to competition. We have come to a space of thinking that, yeah, there is abundance and we can share it all, to really thinking about scarcity. And either I get it or this person gets it. So when we reach that space, it's equally applicable in the arena of relationships, right? Think of your time in high school, right? Yeah, if she's my friend, then how can she be their friend, right? And as we grow older, yeah, we start more and more kind of getting steeped in this competitive mindset. And in a competitive mindset, it becomes really important how we fare in comparison with others. And this is where we start really looking at how others are looking at us, what they think of us, what are they going to judge us for. And this is the primary source of a particular kind of anxiety called social anxiety, where the person nervous system is over engaged with constantly evaluating, almost on a minute-to-minute basis. What is that person thinking of me? What is this person saying? Oh, that smile means they thought something is funny. Am I looking funny? Oh, that person is looking like they're frowning. That person is not smiling at me, right? So we almost reach a point of analysis paralysis, of trying to evaluate, are we accepted? Are we not? Are we good? Are we not? Are we smart? Are we not? And, this is often the beginning of the end in a relationship, because you're so focused on you that there isn't enough resources internally. There isn't enough that you have to give. What people do is they try people pleasing. Oh, if I do this for a person like me, okay, let me do this, let me do that. But the focus is always you. And in that striving, what happens is we miss valuable cues of just connection, of true connection. Because true connection can only happen when you are you and they are they. And then you come together. But if you are you with a big mask and they also come in with a big mask, two masks cannot merge, right? So a very kind of broad analysis, but today's day has become very competitive. We have become very judgmental creatures. We are constantly judging each other. And if we don't get present to that, oftentimes our judgments are not our own judgments. They come from some past, they come from society. We never really pause to evaluate, yeah, what is it that I truly want? I've often worked with women who are in relationships and they are constantly anxious because they attracted men where, or they're in relationships with men where they constantly need to keep a certain image. So they need to be a certain body image, they need to be a certain way of talking, they need to be a certain way of being, they need to accept certain things that the man, and in attempting to do all of that, what happens is that the relationship begins to crumble, because in reality there wasn't really a relationship. It was just two people trying desperately to find a way to validate themselves. And you cannot find true validation when you're not yourself. And you cannot validate yourself when you're constantly trying to, be somebody else.
Yeah. So, sometimes one feels discriminated due to cultural or social groups. Is that a part of this?
Yeah. Very, very good point. Especially today, and where we are located, Vancouver, the Lower Mainland, it is a big potpourri of people from different cultures. But having said that, we often find that people are searching for that sense of belonging. And in trying to create belonging, we begin to create cliques, which means that we include somebody, we exclude somebody. In that, like I said, coming from the scarcity mentality that, okay, if I want this person to be focused on me, I can't have that person in this group, right? So this is not always conscious. Sometimes it is a conscious, but majority of the times, it's definitely an unconscious bias. But very soon, this becomes, like you said, a deep, culture of discrimination. And we are seeing that. We are seeing that in, many schools, many workplaces, since, the 2020 kind of movements, there is more awareness, there is more ability to call it out, but, let's not say it doesn't exist, because it exists. How does this affect us? Yes, if you are seeking validation, if you are seeking another person's approval, and you're putting on that mask to be like somebody you're not, you're going against your own values or your own culture's values, then you find that you're often feeling isolated, right? And again, we do find this, and this can be a deep sense of anxiety, because then the question arises, where do we belong, right? And in today's day and world, this has become almost, I would say, a pandemic, because people don't realize it, they're not yet calling it out, but it's an existential crisis. Because we are born somewhere most of the time, we do our schooling somewhere else, we move somewhere else for work, we settle somewhere else, and we have that deep sense of isolation, because when we don't find others who believe in the same values, or who dress in a particular way, or they like the same things we like, instead of realizing that, yeah,
Yeah,
this is who I
recognizing.
am, we start, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like recognizing a cherry as a cherry and plum as a plum, like for discrimination, there's so much of that the training. And I was talking to another lady the other day, Shilan, and we were talking about the same thing. There's so much of training in diversity and inclusion, but the bottom line is that it is there. Everything is there for a person to see and grasp and understand, whether it has been absorbed by assimilated in our in our mindset, or is it integrated within our soul system. And that's what I mean, that's the only way I can put it, because only then it could be natural. And people have this anxiety, they get triggered off, they are on an alert mode all the time. They are very
Yeah.
conscious of their words, their presence. And I don't think so that's creating a very healthy environment.
Yeah, and you're so right. And I'm glad that with all these movements, there is at least that awareness. I think that's the first step, that as a collective, human race, we have at least come to acknowledge that we are discriminatory, that we create these stereotypes, we have these unconscious biases, which lead us to be discriminatory, which lead us towards these microaggressions, right? Um, and it is going to be a journey to overcome that. But the question is, yeah, that's one of the aims or goals of us as a collective human race. But within this scope, is it possible for us to still be grounded in our own self, in believing, in our last video, I talked about trusting yourself, trusting your inner wisdom, and really kind of reflecting on those values, uh, acknowledging that we also have those biases, right? We have biases towards other groups have biases towards us. And like you rightly said, it's definitely not leading to a healthy society. It's definitely, and this is one of the primary reasons I would say, if you remember in the other video, we talked about how in the last 10 years, anxiety um, disorders have actually doubled, especially in the younger group, right? Like the 15 to 25 age group. And yeah, one of the reasons is that we are going through this transition. But in a sense, it can be healthier if we become the leader in kind of grounding ourselves in that knowledge. And I talked about the sense of belonging or acceptance that we so desperately chase. And I sometimes ask people and they say, yeah, I don't know where I belong. Do I belong here? Do I belong in, my home country, home culture? Do I belong with this group or that? I don't feel I belong anywhere. And when you feel like you belong nowhere, that is a deep sense of crisis within yourself as a human being. And the way to overcome that, the answer, I often ask people, what is the answer then? Where do I belong? And I say, you belong everywhere. There is no place you don't belong. And why do you belong? By virtue of the fact that you are here. You are here as a thinking, feeling human being. And
Beautiful.
just by virtue of that, you don't need any other qualification to say, I belong. And the only way to really deal with these discriminatory, let's say, thoughts and actions of others is for you to stay anchored in that I belong everywhere. I belong here. You don't have to include me. You don't have to like me, but I still belong. And when you hold that space, people actually start feeling the strength and wisdom of that reality that, yeah, why don't you belong? I was talking to someone today and, we were talking about accents and I said, oh, said, yeah, you have an accent that's maybe not Canadian. And, that, yeah, is kind of coming from your home country, which is India. So I said, yes, if you come to India, will you change your accent to speak in an Indian accent? No. Or if you go to your home country, to Russia, are you going to speak in a Russian accent? No. So what makes you think or believe that someone who comes from another country must change their accent just to belong? No, I belong here and I contribute by who I am. And when you can do that, you see the anxiety shifts to confidence. And when you have that confidence that you exude, that's the only way to slowly shift that discriminatory mindset. You don't have to be on the receiving end that if someone says you look funny, that's based on their past and their culture. I look fine. I belong here, right? And I really want to give that message. And anyone who's here, please begin by saying that to yourself before you enter a room, before you enter, a theater, before you go anywhere, as you walk on the street and people look at you, stand tall and proud of who you are and show with your being that I belong here.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for your message. This is very, very important for everyone because Canada is a mosaic, a mosaic of different cultures, different ethnicities, and everyone is different, and yet we are all together. And, there are wonderful people, beautiful colors, and this is a very important message for each one of us. Thank you for that, Dr. Kannan. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And at the fundamental level, we have the same, if anyone's been on that, it's a small world, right?
Yeah.
It's a world of hopes. It's a world of fears. It's a world of, all of us have the same hopes and tears and fears. So what if we dress different? So what if we have different accents? So what if we look different?
Yeah.
Connect to that deep connection that we all have as human beings. And that's all the qualification you need to belong.
Yeah. So when you talk about that deep connection as well, so can we find space through certain spiritual practices or just mindfulness, just to connect with our own inner being? That connects all of us, it's something as a collective to elevate our life and reflect on these relationships with a different approach.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. So what is one of the best ways to connect with your own inner self? Where do you get the strength from to say, I belong? When, let's say, people around you say you don't belong, right? Or when your experiences have been negative. And like I was telling you earlier, we have all these voices and memories and thoughts swarming around in our head. If we have to go beyond the tumultuous waves on the surface, we have to dive deep within. And as in any ocean, when you're deep within, there is a calm stillness. And at that space, everything is one, everything is connected and united and peaceful, right? So mindfulness, meditative practice, and there are many meditative practices. Mindfulness is one of them. There are, 5 major groups of meditation that helps you really kind of go beyond the chatter in your head. Okay, say, I'm not, somebody who's yet ready for that. Okay, start with what brings you in that space of peak experience where you forget all those differences, where all those voices in your head are still. Okay, can you do it by running? Can you do it through painting? Where do you reach that space beyond? You mentioned ego in one of the videos, that ego that discriminates, the I from you. Where can you become one with the universe, one with nature, one with yourself, right? And in that moment, and we've all had, at least momentary experiences of this. And really maybe starting there, okay? There is, when we talk about meditation, nowadays we talk a lot about meditation in motion, because the whole point of meditation is transcending that constant chatter in our head. You're too good, you're not good enough, you're not this enough, you got to do this to please them, they're not going to like you, this constant chatter. As human beings, how do we do it? If we were to take those thoughts out and put them, on either side, as, a recording, we'd say, wow, shut up. Right? Because it's so much noise inside us. But because we've got used to it, we hold on to it. So one of the real ways of going beyond is meditation. And like I said, nowadays there are different ways of, experiencing that. Maybe it's dance, maybe it's meditation in motion. As you're gardening, you're one with that plant, you feel that energy. Everything has energy. And really kind of going beyond those judgments, those noises in your head, helps you get to that space of just feeling a deep sense of belonging, of oneness, of great self-worth, because you are part of the universe. You may be, just one part of the universe, but without you, this earth, this human race is incomplete.
I think we have taken too much of your time today, and thank you so much for sharing your deep thoughts and strategies and tips. We'll meet again, and I'm sure our viewers have found this very, very valuable to reflect and move forward in life, and not to I would say my word is sulk. The situation, whatever we may find ourselves in, one should be able to stem out, grow up from there.
Yeah, and you know what? Sulking as a momentary response is fine. It's only when we get stuck in that and we believe that's the whole reality, right? That's where then we get stuck and we go down that black hole. But yeah, if we just ground back to, what I was saying in terms of feeling the oneness, feeling I belong, yeah, I think we'll find that energy naturally bubble up from within us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, I wish everyone a most beautiful journey. And I hope this was helpful in terms of creating those healthy, happy relationships with yourself and others.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I belong. Yes. Thank you. We will meet again. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.